Welcome into Dolphins Today. My name is Jake Rietma. I am your host, and Dolphins fans, it's our first Monday together, not celebrating a victory Monday. The Dolphins' perfect record is no more after a really eye-opening, humbling, whatever you want to phrase it, Sunday in Buffalo. It was a lot of things. It was ugly at times. It was a complete and total domination at times by the Buffalo Bills, and really took the wind out of the sails of the Miami Dolphins. And if you're like me after that game on Sunday, you thought the sky is falling, this defense is never going to stop anybody, the offense is never going to score again, then you brought it down a little bit. Or maybe you still are there. That's all right too, because I want you to be honest with me. What is your panic level with this Dolphins team? Scale it for me in the comments. 1 through 10. I got to know right away. Are you completely panicked? That'd be a 10. If you know what, you think, it's just one game, we move right on, nothing to worry about, this offense is still generationally good, then, maybe it's just a 1. Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle where, hey, we got exposed in a lot of different areas, especially defensively. We didn't have a pass rush. We turned the ball over on offense. There are some legitimate things to be concerned about. Maybe you're at a 5. Either way, it was a big stage for the Dolphins, divisional showdown on the road, and Miami just really crumbled in all aspects. It was really disappointing, but again, I want you to be honest with me. What's your panic level? Scaling it 1 through 10. Now, the Dolphins offense at times looked all right. It started at the beginning of the game in the opening quarter. It looked like it was just going to be a good old-fashioned shootout. Both teams scoring touchdowns on their opening 2 drives. De'Von Achane continuing his impressive ways. 2 touchdowns in that opening half. Then the offense started to slow down. 393 yards of total offense, and you wouldn't expect them to keep pace with the really historic pace that they have been on in the first 3 weeks of the season. But, in week 4 definitely was a step back. 251 yards passing. The rushing game at times looked really impressive, especially De'Von Achane continues to dazzle. He is electric. I'm so excited to continue to see him flourish in his rookie year, making quite the case for a Rookie of the Year campaign. But the 2 turnovers, extremely costly. Raheem Mostert had a day to forget. He had 2 fumbles. One of them the Dolphins lost, and for Tua Tagovailoa throwing that 1 interception. Now, the defense was not overly impressive at all. In fact, it was concerning how easy it was for Josh Allen to stand back there, pick apart the defense. It looked like schoolyard football at times. Josh Allen running around with the football and finding his wide receivers. And yes, he's special. He's a special quarterback, but he carved up this Dolphins secondary. Defensive line couldn't get any pressure on them. 414 yards passing. Rushing, now, 104 yards given up. Not a ton, but enough for the Bills' offense not to be one-dimensional, and enough where the Dolphins had to pay attention to the running game. The 310 yards passing, that's really impressive. But also, equally impressive, and for the Dolphins costly, was the fact that they could not muster up forcing any turnovers. The Bills played a completely clean game, did not turn the ball over once, and that's really been the calling card of this Dolphins defense. When they've had success, they've been opportunistic and able to force turnovers. They just didn't have it yesterday. And again, I go back to the first question I asked. I'm moderately concerned about the things that the Dolphins got exposed on. We're going to talk about them today. I think the defense needs to improve. Obviously, there's certain things in the secondary that might need to be adjusted. Lots of different things to get into. But first, some unfortunate news. If you watch the game on Sunday, you saw Terron Armstead leave late in the second quarter with that knee injury. And earlier today, it came out with Mike McDaniel's comments saying it's going to be, quote, weeks, not days, in reference to Terron Armstead's injury. Says he's already ruling him out for next week's game against the Giants. So that's a bummer. Terron Armstead, we know all about him. We talk about him all week, just about every week, because he's a staple of this Dolphins offense, all-pro left tackle, but he's also a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's never played a complete season in his career. He missed the first 2 games this season. played in week 3, played in week 4, but left early with the knee injury. So hopefully it is, as Mike McDaniel said, weeks, weeks and not the entire season, but it's certainly not going to be a day-to-day thing. Now, our causes for concern. In my opinion, these are major. My concern level, right out of 5. It's moderately to significantly concerned upon what we saw on Sunday. First and foremost, that secondary has to be a hell of a lot better than it was on Sunday against the Bills, because Josh Allen had his way. The offense in general had their way, but 21 of 25, 320 yards, better than 12 yards per attempt, the 4 touchdowns. He also ran one in there. It really was like schoolyard football with Josh Allen just dominating. Near perfect QBR, and you simply can't win when you allow the opposition to have their way for 4 quarters. Part of having that way was Stefon Diggs. He was carving up the secondary. The Dolphins had no answer for Stefon Diggs. 6 receptions, 120 yards, 20 yards a catch. He had the 3 touchdowns. And Stefon Diggs is an all-pro. Yes, he's going to get his, but not to the tune of 3 touchdowns. That tied a career high. And in a lot of ways, the Dolphins' scheme coming into question here, because Kader Kohou had a rough game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But he didn't have a lot of help from the D-line. They weren't getting pressure on him. However, what's noteworthy to me, and maybe even a little bit concerning at times, is the comments of Xavier Howard post-game in regards to not guarding Stefon Diggs. Because he wanted to guard Stefon Diggs, according to him. He said, quote, "It's a mentality for me. I want to go at the best. Let me make my money on the top guy. You pay me this money to go do what I do. But it's a new defense, a new scheme. I just have to control the stuff I can control." Look, I love the competitive fire from Xavier Howard wanting to go against the best, and it's probably one of those heat-of-the-moment things, but I'm not sure those comments necessarily help a struggling Dolphins defense get better. I don't know how that works, and I'm purely speculating here, but Kader Kohou, just a second-year guy, has played really well the first 3 games. He had a bad game. And sounding off publicly against, perhaps the coaching staff. And I don't even know if that's what Xavier Howard was referring to, more of the fact that he wanted that challenge. So it'll be something interesting to keep our eyes on as the season progresses. The next time the Dolphins play some big-name wide receivers, is Xavier Howard matched up with wide receiver number 1, or what that scheme will look like under defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. So I ask you, who do you think is to blame for the Dolphins' defensive struggles? If it is at the top, the defensive coordinator, look, Vic Fangio was brought in with high expectations, type VF. If you think the defensive line not getting any pressure on Josh Allen is the reason to blame, the defense, type DL. Or if the secondary, look, they couldn't cover anybody yesterday. That was evident. Go ahead and type S in the comments for secondary. Dolphins Today is presented by Game Time. You guys know I love Game Time. I was using it before I got to Chat Sports because it is far and away the best ticketing app for a number of different reasons. Probably for me, my all-time favorite reason why I love using Game Time is the last-minute ticket deals. Let's say day of you want to get to a ball game. No problem. With Game Time, you're getting the absolute lowest price and the best last-minute deals, which I absolutely love. And also, it's a great app to actually use. I mean, you get a picture of your actual seat, so there's no deception, nothing involved like that. You see exactly where you're sitting, and it's super quick. Couple of clicks of the button, and you're done. And for being a Dolphins fan, we've got a special deal for you. All you have to do is use promo code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, for $20 off when you create an account and your first purchase with Game Time. $20 off with promo code FINSCHAT. That's PHINSCHAT. I love Game Time because it allows you to snag the tickets without any stress. So download that Game Time app, create an account, Use the code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but create that account, redeem that code for $20 off, and download the Game Time app today for last-minute tickets with the lowest price guaranteed. We got to flip it over to the other side of the ball. The offensive line play was at times abysmal. Now, this was an offensive line that was beat up without Connor Williams. That was a huge loss for the Dolphins, the first game that he missed. But what was also critical is the fact that they lost Terron Armstead in the middle of that game. Never came back into the game. He's going to be out for perhaps a couple of weeks. Now, Connor Williams, if you think he can get back, that's a huge add because, unfortunately, nothing personal against Liam Eichenberg, but he just was a hole in the middle of that line. Graded out really poorly for his performance against Buffalo. The Dolphins allowed 4 sacks. That was a season high. Tua was hit 9 times. That was a season high. And 5 tackles for loss. You guessed it, a season high. So that Dolphins offensive line has to be better because this offense goes as they go. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You guys are football fans. You understand this. The offensive line is the crucial ingredient to the success of the Dolphins offense and their performance overall. Now, another area. How many times do we talk about this as games won or lost in the trenches? Because the defensive line wasn't much better either. And the defensive line, really, if you look at the sum of 4 games, they haven't really been great. In fact, they had no pressure on Allen all day yesterday. They kept the clean pocket. He was sacked twice, but both times it was Andrew Van Ginkel. The defensive line, the interior D-line, was not making things happen. And again, some of that, of course, is going to be Vic Fangio's scheme, but of the Dolphins' 10 sacks this year, only 3 of them have been from defensive linemen. So, you know, at times, you got to call some guys out. Bradley Chubb, Christian Wilkins, Emmanuel Ogbah, all of them yesterday were non-existent, combining for 0 sacks, 0 tackles for loss, and just 1 hit on Josh Allen. So they've got to be better. The defensive line has to be better. Now, when you go on the road, you're going to play in some hostile environments. That's exactly what Highmark Stadium was yesterday. And Tua even noted that at times the Dolphins had the inability to communicate, whether that was coming from Mike McDaniels to Tua to the rest of the offense. There were lapses in communication. Tua said after the game, quote, "You know, not communicating to all our guys, and it has to do with everything, motions, protections. So I didn't allow those guys to go out there and play football the way they want to play football." That's Tua talking about the lapse in communication. And, you know, basically he said, guys are thinking and guys were having to guess. That's not how I want our guys to go out and play, and that's something that I need to be better with and I'll work on. Now, some of this might have to do with the noise of the crowd. And Tua, as you see there, still was 25 of 35, 282 yards with a touchdown and an interception. But I think it's important to note that the Dolphins will play some tough games on the road. They got Sunday Night Football in Philadelphia coming up in just a few weeks. So they have to figure out how to communicate in hostile environments. Now, the next 2 are at home, so that will help being back in front of the hometown crowd at Hard Rock Stadium. But something to store away for future reference. If the Dolphins can't communicate in a hostile environment, that will be problematic and something they'll certainly need to shore up before it becomes a serious problem. Now, I love this from Tua Tagovailoa. Yes, it's 1 loss, but his comments after the game were very telling. He said, quote, "For some, it's much needed." Talking about how this team needed to be humbled. Both Tua and Mike McDaniel used the term humbling to describe this loss. And you know what? That can happen. You go up, you set a bunch of records in the last week, you're 3-0, you're on top of the world, and maybe, just maybe, you know, you're not paying as close of attention to details. You're not preparing like you should to face a divisional foe like the Buffalo Bills. And so if this game has to serve as a wake-up call, maybe that's the best thing for the Miami Dolphins. And I think it starts at the top with Tua Tagovailoa saying maybe some of the Dolphins needed to be humbled, and he didn't point out anybody specifically, but just in general, acknowledging the fact that this team maybe can prepare better for upcoming games to avoid what happened on Sunday against the Bills. So, yes, Tua called out the team publicly, and I ask you, do you agree with his comments that perhaps the team needed to be humbled? Type Y for yes, N for no. I think the fact that he sent the message is fantastic. Do it early. We're only 4 weeks in, and maybe guys' heads were getting a little bit too big. I was part of the problem, too. I was saying this is the best offense we've ever seen. It's generational. So, of course, I think as a Dolphins follower, I needed to be humbled, and I felt that on Sunday. And obviously, I'm kidding around a little bit, but Tua having the guts to say what he did is, I think, a really, really noteworthy and admirable thing by one of the leaders of this team, and I think it will only pay off for the Dolphins moving forward. So, Tua sending a message, I love it. It's a huge part of being the leader of this team, being the leader of the Dolphins offense, and having the guts to go out and say that this team needed to be humbled. And we'll see. We'll see. That's the beautiful thing about the National Football League. We won't have to wait long to see if this was a wake-up call for the Miami Dolphins, to see if they will bounce back from this lone setback of the season so far. Before we go any further, I want to remind you to subscribe to Dolphins Today. We have daily Dolphins videos, we have Dolphins trade rumors, and we have live watch parties. They are a blast. Even on days like yesterday where things didn't exactly go our way, there were still reasons to smile at times. And I give you no other reason than De'Von Achane and his continued success as a rookie. He was special once again yesterday. 8 carries for 101 yards, better than 12 yards per carry. He is a human highlight reel. Now, a couple weeks back, we talked about who should be RB1. And I get it. Some guys said, whoa, calm it down. You know, maybe a little bit of an overreaction now. However, Raheem Mostert had a day to forget yesterday, just 9 yards, and he had the 2 fumbles. One of them was lost on 7 carries. He did make a really nice catch, though, to be fair. But perhaps if De'Von Achane continues his success and continues to be that playmaker as soon as the ball is in his hands, maybe you move him up to RB1, and maybe you continue to find more touches for Achane and a little bit less for Raheem Morris. Now, again, bad games happen. I completely understand that. I'm certainly not calling for Raheem Morris to be benched, but when you look at the sample size of what De'Von Achane's been able to do, you certainly could make the case that he should be your go-to running back, RB1. So I ask you, who do you want to be the featured back of this Miami Dolphins offense? Your RB1. Type DA for De'Von Achane and RM for Raheem Mostert. Let me know in the comments. I don't think there's a wrong answer with this one, but it's very easy, and I'm falling victim to this a little bit, to fall in love with the new shiny toy. And De'Von Achane, wow, has he been impressive. Of course, the 4 total touchdowns the previous week, 2 more last week. I mean, you're talking about a guy who scored 8 touchdowns already. He leads all rookies with 6 touchdowns, and he is tied with Christian McCaffrey for the most rushing touchdowns in the National Football League in a very limited sample. So, hey, maybe it is time to continue to find touches for De'Von Achane. As I mentioned, our watch parties are always a blast, and part of our watch parties are the Aqua Club members. You support the show, and we sincerely appreciate that. How do you become a member of the Aqua Club? It's very simple. A $100 super chat or donation to the show puts you in the Aqua Club for life. So far, we've got 3 members, Chad Jones, Lord Buddy Bear, and David Breakount. We appreciate your support of the show. And hey, it's something that lasts forever, being a member of the Aqua Club. So I certainly appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to have all kinds of coverage on the Dolphins as the week continues along. But remember, everybody is entitled to their own panic level. I'm at a 5. We'll continue to progress. The Dolphins are 3-1. still tied for first in the AFC East with a lot in front of them and a lot of football to be played. So like Tua said, maybe the Dolphins, maybe we needed to be humbled a little bit, and let's see how it plays out moving forward. Thanks for tuning in. Always a pleasure to be on the air with you on Dolphins Today.